May Jesus be praised and onward with Mary. A good and holy day to you all, my dear children, in the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, and in the most chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Well, hello again with our morning column, Saints and Coffee. Today is Friday, the 6th of December, and the Church celebrates the liturgical feast of Saint Nicholas of Bari. He's called of Bari because his mortal remains were transported to Bari and are housed there in a magnificent basilica. The basilica, run by the Dominican Fathers, houses the crypt, and there, especially in past years, many Orthodox faithful, mostly Russians, come. This is because in Russia there's great devotion to Saint Nicholas, to venerate him in that crypt where his mortal remains are kept. Saint Nicholas is a hugely important saint from the 4th century, during the transition from the era of persecutions under Constantine to the imperial era. Tradition, though not historically proven, claims that Saint Nicholas, who it is said took part in the Council of Nicaea and gave a resounding slap to the heretic, the first great heretic, Arius. That speaks volumes about his extraordinary character. The emperors who killed Christians greatly feared Saint Nicholas. They barely managed to imprison him, but no one ever dared to do anything more. To take his life precisely because he was a thaumaturge, he performed clamorous miracles. We're at levels of near unacceptability for our materialistic and positivist times. This man raised the dead, stopped rivers, freed the possessed, astonishing miracles. He made bread appear. He did things that one might say were otherworldly. Saint Nicholas. And so today is the perfect day, the 8th day of the Novena of the Immaculate Conception. We're concluding the Novena of the Immaculate Conception tomorrow, and we're preparing for next Sunday's meeting. There are only 2 days left, my dear children, 2 days less until the meeting. It's not a gathering, a prayer meeting in Milan at the NH Milano Congress. On the way, come see that they're challenging us from all sides, they're organizing it, it's incredible. I saw somewhere that they're writing less, they're doing everything we used to do, they're copying it. It's just copy-paste. I saw written somewhere -4, -3 in Milan. It's unclear, and no one can know exactly what it's about. We've got competition, got rivals, so perhaps it's important that you also come for this moment of grace that there will be. Tomorrow at NH Congress, entry is free, no registration is required, from 10:30 in the morning. 12:30, there'll be confessions, he won't be able to come. I repeat once again, Father Johannes, unfortunately, because he's already made a commitment, he can't break there, in the German air, in Austria. Then at 2:30, we welcome Our Lady, we recite the Rosary, the Litany, we consecrate ourselves to Mary. And then we make the floral tribute. Bring the most beautiful flowers, please, to Our Lady. Last year we did it in Milan, always in Milan, where I expected 300 to 400 people. About 1,000 showed up, maybe even a few more, and we had big problems. Those flowers from last year were so lovely. Bring them again to honor Our Lady who... It's called the most beautiful flower of creation, the flower of Israel, the most beautiful flower of creation. So bring the flowers and let's make the floral offering. Then after the floral offering, we'll do the consecration of families to Our Lady and the presentation of the gospel to show that we want to believe in the one true gospel of Jesus Christ, the one that apostolic tradition transmits to us, which is unsurpassable, unbypassable. No pope, no theological, ecclesial, canonical body, etc. can supersede the gospel of Jesus Christ. One gospel, one. And then after that, there'll be Holy Mass, presided over, celebrated by Father Pavel, with a homily by Brother Celestino, and immediately afterwards the procession and the Eucharistic blessing. And then afterwards we'll exchange Christmas greetings. It'll be a moment of grace, of joy, a celebration as always, in all these moments when we see each other together. Many of you have come from Veneto, Trentino, Friuli, Emilia-Romagna, Tuscany, Lombardy, Liguria, and Piedmont. And then gradually, those who can also come from the Marche, Abruzzo, Puglia, Campania, Lazio, all these central regions, Marche, Umbria. Then off. Maybe someone else will arrive too. I know some faithful followers coming from Sicily, some from Calabria, who knows, maybe even from Sardinia. In short, Basilicata, Molise, all the regions, whoever can should come to this moment of grace. There are also buses that will do their route. In Milan soon, we'll live this grace. But, there's an unexpected moment of grace. That is, it was unexpected, even unforeseen, which is today, Friday, the 6th of December. Meanwhile, I remind you that Friday is the day of the Lord's Passion, and so all the faithful of the little remnant, abstinence from meat, and more practice of the way of the cross, I recommend it. We don't eat meat or meat products, and above all, we personally make the most of the stations of the cross to adore Jesus on the cross on Friday, the day Jesus gave his life for us. Tonight, as it's Friday, there's the Rosary Pioneers, as you know, at 9 o'clock, live from Little Nazareth. Right, I was saying that today, while we prepare for the day after tomorrow's feast, there's an event to look forward to, the inauguration of the Casa Betania Center in Savigliano, in the province of Cuneo, Piedmont. It's a place, even if it's on the far western side of the Western Alpine Arc, but easily reachable from many places, certainly from Turin and Genova, and then also from Milan. It'll take, goodness knows, at least 2 hours, no more than 2 hours, something from Milan, so it's a good spot, an outpost of the little that's left. And let's hope for the best with this one too, compared to Trebisilighe, which is on the Padua side, so we can say the eastern side of the northern Alpine Arc. And this, without us having to make any great personal efforts, has appeared on the other side. So truly, the Madonna is carrying out her project. See it with eyes or deal without. So, this afternoon, we're opening this center, this Bethany house. So we have Little Nazareth, Little Tabor, and Bethany house. Nazareth, Tabor, Bethany. Well, Bethlehem's missing, Jerusalem's missing, and so on. Slowly, as Madonna wills, it's a moment of immense joy for me. This inauguration, this consecration to Our Lady of the Center, Casa Betania, flows, in my opinion, from this novena of the Immaculate Conception. Imagine, I hadn't foreseen this moment until the day before yesterday. But the dearest faithful from Piedmont, who are working incredibly hard, and whom I greet affectionately in the person of Francesco and the others who collaborate with him, have actually said that everything was ready for this to happen. So we've been busy finding this space, and so this afternoon live, of course, on the Radio Domina Nostra YouTube channel, there will be this inauguration of the Casa Betania Center. We'll pray the Rosary and litanies, consecrate to Mary, then bless and open the center before Mass. And then there's the Holy Mass, and that's it, because then we, my team, have to go back to Milan, so we'll necessarily have to hit the road. We're glad to come and meet everyone there. We hope many of you can join us, though it's a work day and 4:30 isn't the best time. But today, the 6th of December, on St. Nicholas Day, we're opening this center. We're expecting a large turnout. Don't miss this valuable appointment. And then I also wanted to remind you of something important, which is tomorrow, Saturday, the 7th of December, St. Ambrose's Day. Tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock, I'm saying this because there's no Santier Cafe tomorrow, there'll be an episode recorded at my place titled The Immaculate Conception Will Win, in preparation for the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception, which we'll all experience together, if you come, the day after tomorrow in Milan at the NH Congress. So, at 9 o'clock tomorrow evening, so on the YouTube channel, there'll be this episode, prepared for the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. Share, share, share. Last night's episode was on the Apocalypse. We covered the 5th seal. I wanted to do the 6th as well, but the 5th took up a lot of time, and we're not in a rush. We covered the 5th seal, which allowed us to delve into very, very sensitive and important issues, such as martyrdom and the apparent delay of God's intervention in human history, in believers' history. Yesterday we were saying, however, that God's work is realized not in spite of enemies, but through the attack of enemies. Through St. John Bosco, who was an expert in this, only God knows how many enemies he had. He said that enemies are useful to us because they make us saints through patience, and because they may convert. So then, we went into that last night, didn't we? And I invite you, if you haven't already, to find it on the Radio Domina Nostra playlist. The title is The Lamb Opens the Fifth Seal. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. We've got lots of new folks here. I remind you to support the project. We now have 3 centers. For those who say that Don Minutella steals money, we have 3 centers, a seminary. My dear children, I would like everyone to understand the importance of this project. Except for Don Minutella won't understand and prefers not to, because I have something unexpectedly Franciscan about me. I say this because I'm convinced of it. I'll never be able to embrace the Franciscan charisma because of my, how shall I say, my psychophysical constitution. I'm made for a diocesan life. I need slippers, warm shoes, thick socks to keep my feet warm, scarves. And then, gosh, my twin brother told you, but how is it that now Our Lady always takes you out in the winter? Liv? Yesterday we had, I don't know if there was that nice photo, I didn't post it afterwards, of Brother Celestino and me forced to eat outside to save money, because having lunch in Zurich at a restaurant means paying a month's salary. We're 7 in our group, 7 of us paying in a restaurant. Poor Brother Celestino, barefoot. I don't know if you realize, I'm sure the Madonna suffered more than him because he manages it. But since I could never manage it, I couldn't wait to get in the car. This poor saintly friar in Perinura, or Paranura, whichever's the Italian spelling. Sorry, I was speaking Sicilian with those people looking at him and smiling at him. You see? With a degree and a half, and goodness knows what temperature it was on the ground with those cobblestones. But we couldn't eat inside. We stood outside to eat, and then we found 2 chairs to have a coffee. Look at the state of us. And in this case, Brother Celestino is worse off than me, as you can see, because they gave us, we must have looked a sorry sight, 2 blankets that were there, and we put them on to keep warm. Look at Don Minutella's dazed face. He's somewhere between stunned and bewildered from the freezing cold we found in Zurich, and we just finished eating a sandwich with a few sweets that we got from the bakery, and then also. So I'm saying all this because I could never be a Franciscan, but in a way I am. Let me explain what I mean. I accept all this that's coming out because it's clear that Our Lady wants it, but I'd rather not have any structures. I don't like them. I want to be free. I don't know, I can't explain it properly. We have now 3 centers, Little Nazareth, Little Tabor, Bethany House. And then we have the St. Curé d'Ars Seminary, the Company of Mary, the Bethany Sentinels, the Rosary Pioneers. All right? But above all, and now I'm going to get you all seminarians, nuns, priests, friars, and then the sodality. Of course, I'm getting you all, because now I'm telling you that for me, the work that absolutely sends me into raptures makes me incredibly happy. That's what it means, it's the confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary. Dear ones, a miracle unfolds here. First of all, as I said yesterday morning, we've reached the milestone of 1,000 subscribers in Zurich. In Zurich, Switzerland, not in Italy. In Zurich, they're all Italian too. And I hadn't finished saying that this work was rather national, then the Secretariat informed me that they have arrived, since it's possible to register now. By proxy, with the authorization, just write to the confraternity at the Secretariat number. The number is 3476114667. I repeat the number 3476114667. 67. That's the telephone number for Radio Domina's answering service to register for the delegation to the Confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary. For those who can't, several numbers appear here, but perhaps they aren't the specific ones, so please, the director should remove them. Instead, we'll slowly put up the specific number of the answering service to register for the delegation. Requests have come in, the secretary said this morning, from Scotland, Spain, and the United States of America. Do you think Our Lady wants to save this idea, as I've felt in my heart all along? Does she want to save the Church and the world through the Rosary? Fancy seeing the Eternal Father saying, I like this confraternity story, I like it. I really like Don Minutella. We have 1,000 subs here, even more now, meaning 3,000 daily. Rosaries. Get ready from the right side, without any fumbling, with gusto, with the Paternoster prayed as God commands, and in Latin. I don't know if I'm clear, but even Radio Maria says 3 rosaries, so don't lead us to temptation and pray for the Pope's wishes. This prayer doesn't even reach the gate of Radio Maria's offices of Radio Maria. So it's clear that Our Lady wants prayer from the right side, that she needs it. And I just feel, because otherwise who knows what would happen here, what pandemonium. I just feel that Our Lady is happy and will reward us abundantly. 3,000 and more rosaries at this point, because there are more than 1,000 subscribers to venerate Our Lady. Anyway, we have this work that needs our help, my dear children, in spite of all those who said and continue to say, like idiots, because only idiots would do that, finding other ways to attack me, saying I'm making money. The money is what you give, and you see how Don Minutella acted as a parish priest. Because, all other things being equal, believe in the works, said Jesus. Believe in the works. And we're undertaking these projects. I urge you not to forget that there's a postal current account, which is a quicker and easier way to help us. And above all, there's also the IBAN number through which you can help us. Thanks to everyone who's giving me a lot to do to help us. Right then, today's the 6th of December. Today's St. Nicholas Slap Day in Ario. Next year I heard that the Farsa Church will go to Nice. Are they inviting me to celebrate? Why no invite? That I'm coming too, no you know, but why? Why not? Invite me, because St. Nicholas is a good source of inspiration. St. Nicholas is a good source of inspiration, my dear children, right? Right then, but since today is the 6th of December, this is practically the last episode, apart from tomorrow night's, that I can dedicate to preparing for the Immaculate Conception. I thank you for the gratitude you send me regarding this cycle of Marian catechesis. When you say I show my best side speaking of Mary, I tell you it's true, and you've yet to hear me speak of Jesus. Jesus and Mary, Jesus and Mary there, Jesus and Mary. What more? Good Lord? Paradise, that is, Jesus and Mary. Saint Teresa d'Avila said to the Lord, could you even send me to hell? I have you in my heart, said the Lord. Jesus and Mary are our paradise. So, today's the final episode. We've done a series of catecheses on the Annunciation up until yesterday. So this last episode is titled, as you can see from the window. Meanwhile, the titles are scrolling. Check the playlist for past episodes, gather them up, and you've got a book. But today's title is, This Was Yesterday's, Little Maria, So Great. Now the director suggests this title. We'll see it together in a moment. There it is. Mary and Jesus, the birth in Bethlehem. Mary and Jesus, the birth in Bethlehem. So we're getting ready for Christmas, because the novena of the Immaculate Conception helps us to... So we're getting ready for Christmas, because the novena of the Immaculate Conception helps us to prepare for Holy Christmas. because Mary is the door through which God from eternity enters the world. So Mary is the gateway, and Christian architecture in this sense has played a great role. I say this because they've just shown images of the new Notre Dame de Paris. It's simply disgusting. The altar they've put in is clearly in woke ideology style. It's an unwatchable altar, and the new alliance of secular and temporal power, religious power, is now, thanks to Freemasonry, there for all to see. It's an altar you can't bear to look at. It looks like a bowl just plunked down there. Back to us. So Mary prepares us for the birth of Jesus. So today I really want to talk to you about childbirth. As I've commented on and described in my book, from which I took this meditation cycle, here it is. It has become flesh, which you will always find available. It's part of the trilogy, along with this one. This is the one about the birth. And then there's He Loved Them to the End for the passion, the death of Jesus, and finally the risen one for the resurrection of Jesus. You'll always find these books available. Right then, let's move on to this meditation in these few minutes we have. Right then, we have a few minutes. So then, my dear children, let us pause before the mystery of Christmas. Let us contemplate those moments when Jesus is born and discern the intensity of a mother's love for her son. It's all so profoundly human at the same time. Basically, there's a woman giving birth. What's more human, more natural than that? A woman giving birth, certainly a virgin birth. There's no bloodshed, but it is a birth. It's a birth. Childbirth is a life emerging from a woman's womb. What's more human here in Bethlehem? And yet, what could be more profoundly divine? Because the one who is born is the Messiah, the Son of God, the Redeemer of the world. So I say, can there be a more tender and touching moment than when a woman first holds the baby she has given birth to her breast? By to her breast, I don't mean breastfeeding, because apparently nowadays many women no longer have milk to give their babies. Many women no longer have milk to give their babies. What this depends on, I don't know. Diet, air, I couldn't tell you. But when I say the woman holds the baby to her breast, I'm not so much referring to feeding it, to give the baby that warmth, that comforting warmth of the womb, which the baby hasn't felt for a while. Because when the baby leaves, when it comes out of the mother's womb, it no longer has that warmth. There's no more warmth, you understand? And so it generally cries, screams, or falls asleep like a little bird. But in any case, it seeks warmth. So a mother's breast, the body temperature a woman has in her breast area, allows the baby to feel enveloped in the womb again. Let's contemplate that moment, which art, literature, painting, iconography, and tradition have tried to represent in 1,000 ways, the Madonna and Child. This image with us everywhere, I never asked for it or sought it. It's Our Lady's gift, this Madonna of Pompeii guiding us worldwide. Here too, there's the Madonna and Child. Look, the child's left hand goes towards the Madonna's breast to show that she's his mother. And there are those who do theological speculation. But you mustn't overdo it. With the Madonna, she's his mother. This, for example, is an icon of Russian tenderness. You see the child, who already has the features of Kyrios in a way, because we are in the Eastern tradition being held by his mother, and this is the great mystery of Mary and Mother. The tiny rosebud lips of the baby, Jesus searching for milk. And with it, as I was saying, the mother's warmth that restores and protects him. In my latest book, which I haven't started commenting on yet, I'll probably begin next Tuesday, L'Aquila il Sole. Here it is, the first volume of commentary on the Gospel of John, the first one to arrive, by a long shot, because I still have to start writing the second one, but I don't know when. There's the whole first chapter, which takes up a good portion of the book, dedicated to John's prologue. At a certain point, Giovanni, who doesn't recount the birth of Jesus, says that the Son of God, who is in the bosom of the Father, he, the Father, revealed him, in the bosom of the Father, in sinu patris, in the bosom of the Father. Body, that is, bosom, also indicates in Greek the Father's womb. Brilliant, because the Father doesn't have breasts, but the womb is there, understood as intimacy, understood as a vital source, which is then the Holy Spirit. Oh my goodness, perhaps a bit too high-minded. But the Son, who leaves his Father's bosom, his Father's embrace, finds his mother's embrace. From the Father's bosom to the mother's bosom. That's why Father said that the Son is divine, of the same substance as the Father, and human, of the same substance as the Mother. Mary on earth is what God the Father is in heaven to the Son. Because Jesus Christ is the Son of the Father, being consubstantial with the Father. And Jesus Christ is at the same time the Son of the Mother, being consubstantial with the Mother. Not that impressive, Bari Flowers. Who? Honestly, Maria, because just these past few days we left her there yesterday, remember? We were telling the story of her in that long white dress on her knees, almost hiding, with her hair in front of her face, her hands on her lap, saying, "Here I am." The Lord's servant, that's the willingness. Birth now means action, not readiness. Mary has her son. She carried him for 9 months, gave birth to him in Bethlehem, and now holds him in her arms, this divine little bundle, this sweet little darling. Look, Christmas, Satan hates it more than Easter. I'm more than sure of it. Exorcists know that. The Word became flesh. They tell a story about St. John of the Cross. There was a nun in Avila, I think, or thereabouts, who flew through the air and performed great miracles. But he wasn't very convinced. I don't know how he realized it was a hoax. However, God gives some souls antennae, there's no doubt about it, without merit. Anyway, he wasn't an exorcist. He says, I want to check it out for myself. I read this in his life, and it's always stuck with me. He went into the church, and there was the nun up there, flying, and he read the prologue, and at a certain point he read the decisive formula. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Pop! Got it? The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and that thing, it fell from up there, causing serious injuries because it was all a satanic trick. The devil really hates Christmas. Make a nativity scene in a Christmas tree. Because if you look around now, I'm in Milan, by the way, but I've traveled all over Italy, and from abroad, there's not the slightest trace of the Christian meaning of Christmas. There's no Jesus in a word. I often see how we, the priests of the sodality, even more so, and then let's not talk about Don Minutella, are targeted. But one must ask, how ignored, hated, persecuted, neglected, and insulted is Jesus today? That's a fact. Let's go back to the Bethlehem stable. The Madonna didn't experience the pains of childbirth, as we know. Luca says it quite clearly. Let's read the text. We're at chapter 2, the birth of Jesus and the visit of the shepherds. Luke, in verses 6 and 7, says, Now while they were there in Bethlehem, the time came for her to have her baby. Luke doesn't dwell on the reasons for Bethlehem. My God provides, because Matthew, who also wrote the Gospel around the same time, explains, because he was writing for the Jews, the reasons why the Word was born in Bethlehem, why the Son of God was born in Bethlehem, because Bethlehem is the city of David, and because there's a prophecy from 600 years before Michelangelo, and you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, are not the least among the chief cities of Judah. For from you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd Israel. So there's a fulfillment of the prophecies. Did Maria know? I think so, yes, definitely. Verse 8, 7, this is decisive. She gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger where the midwives are. Where's the staff? Careful. You know that since the dawn of time, a woman giving birth has had assistance. It's normal for her to have it, except when it happens that there's nobody there, it happens. But normally there are midwives because the woman after she gives birth is tired, she's exhausted, she's lost blood, she needs to lie down like irreverently some modern nativity scenes. Bergoglio's thread, Neo-Aryan proposals. Don't put those Madonnas up or I'll come and beat you up, you know? Don't put those Madonnas up. In fact, buy them and set them on fire. Set fire to these reclining Madonnas, these sorrowful Madonnas. Perhaps the director, with the crew's help, will show you some. These Madonnas, because people need to see things. Blessed children, you understand? People need to see things. These reclining Madonnas who are sleeping, why are they sleeping? Because it has to convey. The message is that the Madonna had a birth like all the women in the world. Because the idea that the Virgin Mary gave birth virginally is a myth. Because it can't be rationally explained. And so, if they can't explain that, they can't explain Christ's sacrifice on the altar either. Which is more surprising, the virgin birth or bread and wine becoming Christ's body and blood on the altar? You tell me which is more surprising. It takes faith, because without faith, that's simply a plain wafer to you. But if you have faith, even if you don't have the emotional dimensions of faith, you're in. Sometimes while I'm saying Mass, my mind wanders. I don't know what to do. I was once and for all reassured by a holy brother of the past who told me that there's no matter of sin, that they're involuntary distractions, that part of the human mind that Saint Teresa of Avila, so I was told, experienced. She suffered, and she was told that this, but wait, otherwise people will look at that and forget, and I ask mine to wait, they suffer. I was saying that Saint Teresa d'Avila said that her mind, her imagination, was so rampant, it was like a wild, maddened horse in a boundless prairie. More or less, that's what she meant. Then there are the involuntary distractions, while there's the consecration. But the soul, the spirit, the heart, the faith are there. And you feel then, without mystical pangs, that bread is no longer bread. You feel it. Then I, a priest, now 25 years of Mass, in a few weeks, you feel it in your hands. You notice it. You perceive it. You can't not perceive it, in short. Here we see these Madonnas, at least a prototype, kneeling. There they are. That adore, that sleep. But actually this one could still just about pass, because here, the Madonna, look at this. The Madonna sleeping because she's tired from childbirth. This goes against the gospel regarding Bergoglio's false church, because Luke says very clearly that she did everything herself. She gave birth to her firstborn son, so it's all her. The Madonna, she wrapped him in swaddling clothes. It means she didn't go to bed. It means she wasn't unwell. It means she was in perfect health. Why? Because the birth was virginal. He didn't sleep. He didn't need to recover. He wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, etc., etc. And here, at this moment, we can imagine that the umbilical cord has been cut. Because even Jesus, and note that the fact that it was a virgin birth doesn't change this. Thank you.
Scusate l'intervallo, fra un po' manderemo in onda in barba a chi ci toglie il segnale, perché io lo sospetto.
Sorry for the interruption. We'll be back on air in a bit,
Che ne pensa
regardless of
la
who cuts
regia?
our signal.
Quando si interrompe,
I suspect it's the adverts
non
for the
è una
various
buona idea.
rallies. What does
Quando
the
manda il
director think when
segnale, la
it's
regia mi
interrupted?
conferma che è una buona idea.
Isn't that a good idea?
Mandiamo in onda lo
When the
sponsor
signal
di
goes,
domenica.
the director
Torniamo a
confirms
noi.
it's a good idea.
Allora, il cordone ombelicale è stato
Let's go
operato,
live to
stavo
the
dicendo,
sponsor of Sunday's match.
il
Right then,
parto è virginale,
the
ma
umbilical
il fatto che
cord
sia
has been
virginale non
cut
significa che sia
because I
bello,
was
è
saying that the
reale,
birth
cioè
is
la
virginal,
Madonna
but
ha
the
avuto
fact that
una
it's virginal
certa
doesn't mean it's
successiva
fairy tale. It's
modifica
real.
fisica che
The Virgin
indica che
Mary
la donna
experienced
è
a certain,
predisposta a
not
portare in
excessive
grembo il figlio,
physical
no?
change
C'è una
typical of women.
come dire,
Women are
conversione
predisposed
della
to carry her
donna
child.
dalla parte
There's a
diciamo del
woman's
bacino, che
pelvic
proprio è
conversion that's
predisposta a
predisposed to
questo e
this,
che poi renda la
and
donna
that then
bella,
makes
è
the woman
bella, una donna
attractive,
incinta è un
beautiful,
capolavoro
a
di Dio,
pregnant
no?
woman,
E,
a
e
divine
tutto nella donna si
masterpiece.
modifica in ragione di questo servizio alla vita. Ma anche Maria
Everything in the woman changes because of this service to life, but Mary also has something else that can change.
naturalmente non in modo clamoroso, però anche la Madonna si è, dal punto di vista fisico,
Naturally, not in
modificata.
a dramatic
Poi però
way,
questo bambino
but
è
even the
non è
Madonna,
lì come
physically
nel figlio di
speaking, has
Dio,
changed a
che ne
little.
so io,
And then this child in the Greek wasn't just there because he was the Son of God, I don't know,
c'era il cordone
in a
ombelicale e
fictitious
questo cordone
pregnancy,
ombelicale è stato spezzato e
was
allora
a
la
real
Madonna ha
pregnancy.
intensificato quello del cuore.
So there was the
Già il
umbilical cord,
latte,
and this
la Madonna
umbilical
aveva
cord was
ricordato il
severed,
latte a Gesù,
and then the Madonna
cioè, per
intensified
chi
that of
come
the
me è
heart,
stato più volte
sucking the milk, because the Madonna reminds you she gave milk to
alle
Jesus.
spalle più o meno della grotta della
For
natività,
anyone
sorte
like
del
me who has
Blitz,
been to the
grotta,
Holy Land
la
many
grotta del
times,
latte,
you
molto
know
bella
that
da vedere,
more or
molto
less
buona
at
da
the
vedere,
back of the
tanti
Nativity
circoli, io l'ho
Grotto
sempre visitata,
rises the
è un
milk
po' tra
grotto.
tradizione leggenda
Very
e quelle
beautiful
cose
to
lì.
see.
Allora, questa
Many
è
don't go
grotta
to
è
see
tutta
it, many
bianca,
do.
di
I've
tufo
always
bianco,
visited it, and
va
it's a
bene?
bit of a mix of
È tutta di
tradition and
tufo
legend, you
bianco
know.
e
So
secondo
this
la
cave is
tradizione
all
di Davide,
white,
il
white
pastoretto,
tough.
che poi viene scelto
All right?
come re,
All
andava a
white
pascolare il
tough.
gregge e si
And
riposava lì.
according to tradition,
E lì la
David, the
Madonna,
shepherd boy
quando
who was
cominciò
later
la
chosen as
persecuzione di
king, used to
Erode,
graze his
Cesare la
flock
sposta,
there
come
and
bella
rest there.
tradizione,
And there the Madonna,
per
when Herod's
sfuggire
persecution
alla
began,
furia
is
omicida
said
di
to have
Erode,
hidden,
prima di
but I
fuggire
repeat,
d'Egitto,
it's
e allontanò il
tradition, to
bambino. E
escape
il bambino a
Herod's
un certo
murderous
punto,
rage
giocando, ha lasciato
before
cadere
fleeing to
una goccia
Egypt,
del
and
latte
she
della
nursed the
Madonna.
baby
Ecco, questa è
there.
la mix
And the
grotto, la grotta
baby, at
del
one
latte,
point
vedete tutta
playing,
bianca. E
dropped a
secondo la
drop
tradizione
of the
questa goccia
Madonna's
che è
milk.
cascata a terra
Here,
adesso è
this is the
bianca tutta
milk
la
grotto,
grotta.
see,
È una
all
bella
white.
tradizione.
And
Comunque
according to
sia,
tradition, this drop that fell to the ground
madre
turned the whole
e
cave
figli,
white.
Gesù e Maria,
A nice
Giuseppe con Maria,
tradition.
proprio come dice il
Anyway,
Salmo.
sucking
Come un
paws is my
bambino
Jesus
stesato in
and
braccio
Mary,
la sua madre
Jesus with
l'anima
Mary,
mia,
just
Salmo
as the psalm
103. Ecco,
says,
questo bambino è lì
like a
che
weaned child
succhia
in its
con le
mother's arms
mani,
is my
con quelle
soul.
labbra
Psalm
così piccole e porose,
131.
succhia
This baby's there,
dal
sucking with those
capezzolo
tiny
della
rosy
mamma.
lips,
Però a un certo punto io mi
sucking on
immagino,
its
non
mother's
so se siete
nipple.
d'accordo, non voglio far prestito emotivo, però
But at some point,
io mi
I
immagino che possano
imagine,
esserci
I
stati
don't know if
istanti in
you
cui questo
agree,
bambino
I don't want to
era
borrow emotion,
neonato,
but
era un neonato come tutti gli
I
altri,
imagine there
ma
might
ogni
have been
volta
moments when this
mi
baby,
suscita da
who
un
was
forte sguardo divino
a
alla
newborn
madre.
like all the
Questo
others,
me lo sento.
occasionally, fleetingly,
Cioè,
gave his mother a sort
ecco,
of
per
divine
Dio, per dirla
glance.
così, Soldoni,
I
c'è
feel
il
it,
Logos.
I mean,
C'è
inside
la
that
Madonna,
child,
ma
so to
chi è
speak.
Maria che
In
allatta il
Soldoni,
figlio di
there's the
Dio? Cioè,
Logos.
questo bambino che la Madonna tiene in braccio è l'Eterno,
Who is
è
Mary,
Dio,
nursing
è
God's
Dio.
Son? I
Questo
mean,
è
this
Cristo
baby
Gesù.
the
Qui si
Madonna's
legge
holding
tutto,
is
tutto
the eternal
gratuito.
one, is
Se non si
God,
crede
is
che quel
God.
bambino è Dio, nato e
This is Christianity.
concepito e
Everything
partorito
stands or falls on
virginalmente,
this.
crolla tutto l'impianto
If you
cristiano
don't
e poi
believe that that
piano
child is God,
piano, con
born,
percorsi del
conceived, and
sacerdozio
delivered
che questi non
virginally,
ci
the
credono,
whole Christian
che Gesù
system
è Dio.
collapses and becomes Arian or Neo-Arian
Maria,
with Bergoglio
avete
and the
capito,
false
nel momento in
church
cui questo
because they don't
bambino
believe that Jesus is
apriva gli
God.
occhi e a un certo punto la guardava con
Mary
solennità.
certainly had moments when
Solo
this
Maria
child
poteva
opened
leggere
his
questo
eyes and
amore,
at
perché
some
poi si
point
parla
looked at her
con
with
San Giuseppe.
solemnity.
A Betlemme, per chi non è stato mai
Only
interessato,
Mary could
bisogna che si
withstand
sappia
that
che
gaze.
accanto alla grotta
Because if we
della
want to talk
natività
about poor
si
Saint
scende
Joseph
giù,
in
si scende
Bethlehem,
dalle
for those who
scale
have never been
nella
interested,
basilica di
you should
epoca
know that next to the
costantiniana
Nativity
e si
Grotto,
scende
you
giù
go
e c'è
down,
la
you
stella
go down the
d'argento o
steps
d'oro,
into the
credo sia oro,
Constantinian
e c'è
Basilica.
scritto IC, solo lì si può scrivere,
And going down,
beatus
there's the
est,
silver or gold
eccetera.
star, I think it's
La Madonna
gold,
era lì che ha partorito
on which is is written I see, only there can you write natus est, and so on. Madonna performed the rite here. Near Agicenta is the cave where I celebrated Mass, because I didn't have the grace to be able to celebrate Mass at the Grotto of the Nativity directly. You can't. It's very rare. It's for bishops, the cardinals, a few bishops, because the Orthodox are there. You see, it's interesting, this fascinating competition between the various Christian denominations, especially the Eastern ones, Orthodox, Coptic. They too have their own enormously fascinating part, the Copts, the Maronites, and all that. But especially the Greek Orthodox, it's quite difficult. But nearby lies St. Joseph's Grotto, where St. Joseph would have been asleep, let's say asleep, while Mary experienced those moments that are entirely their own, Jesus and Mary. Who could possibly intrude? Mary and Jesus. What does a baby experience after drinking milk and falling asleep on its mother's breast? But also, and this we ask of them, but women don't formulate. These women are clever, because men think that women aren't up to doing a systematic formulation. Speculative about motherhood, about breastfeeding, because the man, with his predatory, speculative, masculine gaze, would like to fully plumb this mystery that the woman experiences. And the woman doesn't tell him, that's what I think. In the sense that the woman experiences it and doesn't need to systematically articulate it. So one wonders, what could have experienced it? A mother breastfeeding her baby and watching it fall asleep. If you see that moment when the baby, like a little deer, finally stops bobbing its head forward because it's full and can't take any more, and its little mouth still has a bit of the last milk from its mother's breast. What does a mother experience at that moment, faced with such a little one? But what might Mary have experienced when faced with this child, the Son of God? It's a communion, generally speaking, that a woman, as I said, doesn't need to explain, analyze, or speculate on, simply because for a woman, all this is absolutely natural. But of course, the fusion is total. Perhaps I wrote, but I wrote perhaps for various reasons that are easy to understand. For the woman, this fusion with the breastfed child is even perhaps superior to that previously achieved with her own man in view of life. Maybe I don't know if that's the case. The women here can confirm. I mean, the bond a woman, a mother, forms with the baby she's breastfed should be even stronger. Some even say different than the bond with her own man. And so the kisses multiply, the cuddles, the massages, which, as pediatricians maintain, provide a huge surge of well-being to the baby who, along with milk, is also hungry for love and protection. Jesus, just born, he's so small, infinitament big, he becomes. So small, it's a contest of who's smallest here, since Maria's tiny too. All for the kids. Sorry, we're closing up shop and heading off. All right, sorry. Heaven's kingdom belongs to children. How's that? Don't you agree? But how can you not get dizzy thinking about what we're talking about? Because that's what we're living for. I gave my life for this, and so did you. Jesus is so small now. Enchanting scene. Mary kisses Jesus' tiny body, holds him close as any mother would, then recalls he's God and can't quite grasp this truth. Then she looks at him again, and a wound of love opens in Mary's heart, a wound caused by the intensity of those small, yet already so profound eyes of the child, with their indescribable blue. Maria is so profondamente human, like every woman when she discovers her breast and offers her breast to the child, and even Jesus is profoundly human here when he seeks his mother's nipple to feed. But in this profound humanity, there's the theandric, there's the whole mystery of the divinity that became flesh. Theologians shouldn't, as my mentor, I always draw inspiration from him, I'm talking about von Balthasar, shouldn't gloss over this too much for fear of lapsing into sentimentality. Because then there's the risk, of Arianism and Docetism. On the one hand, Arianism, which denies the divinity of Christ, and therefore makes it all just a human event. There's no need even to dwell on describing what every woman experiences. On the other hand, there's the risk of Docetism, that if we don't underline the human dimension, am I speaking too difficultly? The human dimension of conception, of childbirth, we risk thinking it's all fictitious, a fairy tale. So we should return to dwelling theologically on these moments, because they express the mystery of the divinity becoming flesh. That child is the Word made flesh. And so Mary, the mother, also remembers being the servant. What'd she do? How did those first moments go? What were the first few hours like that night before the shepherds arrived? Because it was a couple of hours, but even before that, because it's interesting, the shepherd's field isn't exactly close to the Bethlehem cave, but it's not that far either. It must have taken ages to walk to the Bethlehem stable. What did Mary do? Did she sing praise to the tiny God in her arms? And then finally, laying him in the manger, this manger is in Rome at St. Mary Major. While he sleeps, he adores him. Here, the first worshiper of the Word. Mary, letting the baby fall asleep for the first time while sleeping in silence. As the Book of Wisdom says, while all was in silence, shrouded in the darkness of night, you, Lord, visited us. She adores him for a long time, and perhaps, already weeping, she is aware that this little God will one day be nailed to the cross. Tears already of sorrow for a mystery that will pierce her heart until Calvary. From his birth in Bethlehem, the bond between mother and son becomes redemption. As I said, I'm lending a little bit of this book to my heart. The little God sometimes seems to be watching her, while his mother washes him, perfumes him, Pettina with those golden curls, wraps him in linen swaddling clothes, and sings him a lullaby. It seems to call her to himself then, and sometimes to say to her in his heart, "See, Mother, I am already here for mankind, ready to suffer for them, and you will be the co-redemptrix. Let us do the Father's will, and let us set out now towards Calvary." When Mary sees him sleeping peacefully, that child, she bursts forth with heartfelt and anguished inner words. How will you cope, my loved Jesus, when you have to face the hatred of men? Oh, if I could take that hatred upon myself, I'd dance on the cross to spare you any pain, because you are God, you are love, you don't deserve hatred. And so Bethlehem is a mixture of tears of joy and sorrow, mixed with ecstatic moments of supernatural joy, when the baby, moving his little hands, calls her to latch onto her breast and suckle the milk of life. So Maria, it's just the mom merging with her child while breastfeeding. And we leave them like that, in this divinely human intimacy. Jesus and Mary, Christmas is all here, my dear children. If there's Jesus, if there's Mary, there's Christmas. Otherwise, it's just an avalanche of panettone. Jesus and Mary, Christmas is all here, but Easter too, because ultimately the Nativity, so often portrayed, already evokes Michelangelo's Pietà, the Jesus of Good Friday, laid down on the arms of his heartbroken mother. For her, and it will be for her, always and forever, the babe of Bethlehem. So one last word, the final word is to adore. To adore, from the Latin os ad os, mouth to mouth. Therefore, it carries within it the theme of intimacy and the most natural outcome that Our Lady offers us in the life of faith and love for Jesus. Intimacy. When we put aside the agitation of doing and finally stop, then we discover the urgency of intimacy with God. You'll always be able to tell whether a shepherd, a nun, a friar, or a believing layperson is used to adoration or not. In the first case, when they talk about Jesus, they'll do so like those who know him personally, intimately, you see. In the second case, they'll be pompous, empty-headed windbags. I heard yesterday that Bergoglio, for the umpteenth time, has recommended short homilies, no more than 8 minutes, so as not to burden people. He should ask himself why people get weighed down, and why, conversely, they complain if a 1-hour homily ends when it's good. It's not true that you have to be short at all costs. Everyone responds as they feel naturally. But it's not true that brevity saves the sermon, because even an 8-minute sermon by a priest who isn't close to Jesus, people get bored. They can't wait for it to end. I've always told people what my twin brother says. In the past, he used to tell me, "You're good at preaching, your sermons are lovely, but they're a bit too long," he'd say. You can find a formula, but it's true, a long sermon isn't boring if it's good. It's in union with God. When a man is in union with God, he can say seemingly trivial things, but if he is united with God, I've got few priests. I've always listened carefully because I'm very demanding. I really enjoyed listening to Father Liam. I really enjoy listening to Brother Celestine, for example, and also Don Enrico, the priests of the Sodality in general. It's not to say some more than others, for example, no? I also really like, for example, Father Pavel, who, although he doesn't master the language, not being Italian, speaks it well. But when he gives his homilies, he says very profound things. Because these priests of the Sodality, who everyone is now attacking because we're a sect, we are the sect. The priest who says Mass with the club of the elect. No, we're the sect that has open doors. But they really will. Look, they'll answer to God for the confusion they're causing. It's the devil doing this. The priest secretly holding Mass with the club, all right, wanting to know who's coming and who's not. No. Us, on the other hand, going to Milan with a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 people, we are the club and we are the sect. Got it? Why get mad when my speech was so good? And this is Don Minutella, whom people would always gladly listen to. It needs adoration. The saints, like Our Lady, and with Our Lady, this is a call to everyone, practiced adoration as a prolonged and essential part of their days, and often their nights too. I've met several people who often have trouble sleeping, but why is it a problem? Pray, adore Jesus, and then it happens that when that happens, then you sleep even better many times. And then they suffer the opposite because they've discovered the beauty of nighttime prayer, the silence of it, because who are you with? I mean, if you're married, look, I'm talking, but if you're married, it's obvious that, but it's a time for intimacy with God, ever more so. Evermore. I must conclude. I'd say more, but I'll end here. We must reclaim this time, lost, useless, ineffective to the world, and yet so precious, sacred, of Eucharistic intimacy. The story of the saints is a rhapsody punctuated by adoring intimacy. One that springs to mind, to cite just one among many, is the holy beggar of the 18th century, to whom the holy curate of Ars was devoted, that is, Saint Joseph Benedict Laber, who spent his days in Rome visiting the tabernacles of the churches, to sometimes adore Jesus without stopping. He forgot everything, bless him, to eat, to sleep, because he let himself be absorbed by intimacy with the Lord. Learn it. Christmas is, above all, the adoration of the Word. Bethlehem means house of bread, so Christmas already speaks of Eucharistic adoration. When, like the shepherds and the Magi, we find Jesus, through Mary, we have found everything. Saint Pier Giuliano Aymard, French saint, said, "There's the Blessed Sacrament, and everything I need." The ardent solitary monk of the desert, the Frenchman Charles de Foucault, who came from the worldly Paris, spent whole nights under the starry Saharan sky worshipping Jesus, just like Saint Joseph and the Madonna in Bethlehem. In his diary we find written, Oh, what
Per
sweetness of
soggettirvi potete
sweetnesses!
immaginare come
My
mi sono sentito
God,
è stato
more than
proprio per
15 hours.
più di 15 ore senza avere fatto altro che questo, guardare voi e
Taken
dirvi
from his
Signore vi
diary,
amo,
you can
lo avete
imagine how I
concesso.
felt having to report for over
Arriveremo noi a
15
questa
hours,
intimità
doing nothing
che
but
la
watching
festa
you
degli
and telling
innamorati
you,
e il
my
Natale
lords, I love you.
suggeriscono. Comprenderemo che
Oh,
l'adorazione è
what
l'esito della festa
sweetness! Will
natalizia.
we reach that
Adonare il
intimacy that
Verbo,
the Feast of
come
the
Maria
Immaculate
e con
Conception and
Maria
Christmas
questo è il
suggest?
Natale.
Will we see that worship comes from Christmas? To adore the Word is Mary, and with Mary